Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for new wave band, The Cars, and their classic album, Heartbeat City. This is a deluxe box set treatment for the album that came out originally in 1984. It was their fifth studio album at the time, and it's now expanded to a 5-disc box set. We get 4 CDs, 1 LP, and it just got released on October 31st of 2025. I'll do a full review, unboxing of this thing in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, if you turn on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on cool things like this, where we're talking about the brand new Cars box set for Heartbeat City. All right, so jumping back a bit, the band formed in 1976, which means next year, 2026, the band will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. And to celebrate, the surviving members of the Cars have already announced that they're working on new material. And this will be comprised of songs that were uncompleted by Rick Ocasek, who unfortunately passed away in 2019. So hopefully next year, 2026, we will be getting the first new Cars album in 15 years since Move Like This, which came out in 2011. But in the meantime, the band is celebrating one of their most commercial albums, Heartbeat City, its 40th anniversary, having come out in 1984. Yes, sometimes these bands are off by a year or so when they do it, and in this particular case, the Cars, no exception with this. So, first album for them not to be produced by longtime producer, at the time at least, Roy Thomas Baker, known for his work with Queen, but they worked with equally legendary producer Robert John Mutt Lange, who had worked with AC/DC, Foreigner, would go on to work with Def Leppard. So the extra glossy production of this album was very fitting for the 1980s and kind of really a precursor to where everything was going in the mid to late 80s, spawning 6 singles at the time. You might think Magic, Drive, Hello Again, Why Can't I Have You, and the title track Heartbeat City. All of this would help the album go on to be certified in sales of 4 million copies in the US alone. Unfortunately, though, their what would become their last album, Door to Door, at least at the time, in 1987, would not be as successful as this, only selling 500,000 copies. So this was kind of the last big major album from the band. And now that we have this, the Super Deluxe Edition box set, we get to sort of share in all of its glory, maybe even more so than we once knew it to be. So, Heartbeat City, 1984, 10 tracks, 38 minutes on it. This is actually the band's first deluxe edition box set for an album that they've done. Some of their albums have been expanded with bonus tracks, but this is the first multi-disc box set version. And I really hope that they do other albums, especially the debut. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that with the debut having sold, I believe 5 or 6 million copies, so more than this one here, that wasn't the first one that we would have gotten. But as I said, this one here probably the overall most commercial in terms of the number of singles and all of that. And so now this box set has been highlighted with a lot of behind the scenes type stuff like unreleased studio recordings, B-sides, early mixes, remixes, live recordings, featuring a total of 61 tracks, 34 of which are previously unreleased, either entirely or unreleased on CD. So let's dive into what is actually included on this box set. And I'm going to kind of be going through, we're going to be looking at it, talking about it kind of all at the same time. This is a little different style box set than some of the other ones. It's not like the lift top boxes or the ones that have all the memorabilia and stuff like that inside. It is one of the sort of book editions of these things where it opens up like this, and you can see that we've got the 4 CDs and individual sleeves back here. And then we've got, in this part, the vinyl, and we've got the booklet that's in here. The vinyl itself is just in a regular sleeve. It's not colored vinyl. It's not in a picture sleeve of any kind like that. So You know, typical to this sort of style of box set, and we've gotten these before from the Doors and a number of other artists that do it. I always find it very difficult. They never leave enough room in here to really get your fingers inside and lift out the vinyl, the book. So that's a little bit of a bummer in and of itself. I kind of wish they would cut these down much lower in here, allowing you to get your hand on it and lift stuff out. And then with the CDs themselves being in here, and they are in individual sleeves, so we do love that aspect. But getting into these things, having to get your finger in this part of it, and because there's a disc in it, it's very hard, not only hard material, but hard in effort to get enough bend on it. As you can see, I'm even having a bit of a trouble to pull that out like that, and then we're going to be able to talk about it. So I'm going to show you each of these as we go through it in just a bit. And we're going to start off with the one that I just pulled out there, which is the album proper. So they basically use some zoomed in parts of the album art to create this. But the album remastered, so we get 10 tracks on it. Now, there isn't any real information that explains whether or not this is the same as the 2018 remaster, or whether this is a brand new remaster. And considering they don't go out and call it a brand new 2025 remaster, I'm going to assume this is an older remaster and probably the 2018 version. And if you have that version, there were 7 bonus tracks on it. 6 of those 7 bonus tracks appear on this box here. The one track that doesn't, the 7th one, Tonight She Comes, was the new track that was included on the Greatest Hits in 1985. That's not included here. I'm actually glad that it's not, and it stays over there where it should be. So we're going to move on to disc 2. Let me make sure I'm pulling out the right one here. As I said, these things are a bit difficult to get out. So this is the cover of it. And it's basically a series of bonus tracks, and it calls out different things. Bonus tracks, B-sides and remixes, bonus tracks, early versions and demos, bonus tracks, alternate versions. And so it breaks them up like that on here. And what we get out of this is 6 demos, 2 remixes, 2 alternate versions, and 2 non-album tracks. And those 2 non-album tracks, at least for me, is really where it's at. Now, these 2 tracks were included on that expanded edition in 2018. So probably for most of you, it's not something new, but for me it is. We get Breakaway, which was a B-side to the album's 5th single, Why Can't I Have You? And then Shooting for You, which was an outtake from the Panorama sessions in 1980, and then it was revisited here as part of this album, though it ultimately did not make the final album in the end of the day. All right, the next one here, let's pull out the third one. And so this one here is just referred to as early mixes. There's 12 tracks on this one. 9 of the 10 tracks on the album are featured in early mix form. The one track that is not featured here, Why Can't I Have You, is missing. I don't know if that's because perhaps that was the last song recorded for the album, or perhaps they just didn't do an early mix of it at the time. But these tracks are much less polished than the final studio version, so less of that 80s polish on everything. Kind of a little more raw like their earlier albums, and I actually really enjoyed hearing these early mix versions. Also included, though, are early mixes for the 2 non-album tracks, Breakaway and Shooting for You. So as you can see, you're already starting to get duplicates of songs. In fact, there's 3 versions of Shooting for You on that second disc, the bonus tracks edition. Now you're getting an early mix, so 4 versions of that in total on this album, or this box set, in the end of the day. Now, the last one in here is probably the one that is of interest to most people, and it's a live show from 1984. So a complete concert, 70 minutes long. It was recorded in Houston, Texas on September 11th of 1984. And it was originally released as a VHS tape at the time. I think it later got released on Laserdisc, although I don't know that it's ever been released on either DVD or Blu-ray, which I'm a bit surprised. Why would you not include that as a video format in this box set here. In fact, why include the LP, which we're going to get to in a minute, and duplicate CD and LP? Why not give us the video content, or at least give us the video content as something else on here, because I know I've never seen that show and I think I would have really enjoyed that. But you're getting the entire concert and it is unreleased, at least as far as being on a CD is concerned. The sound is amazing. It's just as good as the album. There's nothing missing in terms of performance-wise from album to this. It does feature 5 songs from Heartbeat City. It also includes a deep cut from the album, It's Not the Night. So you might think they would be performing 5 of the singles that were released, but in fact, they're actually only doing 4 of the singles released and doing this deep cut as well. So it's also the band's first complete live concert to get released, at least as far as I know, because the only other live album released by the band was this in 2006 called The Cars Unlocked, but it was a compilation of live performances from various tours that came out in a DVD, CD packaging like this, and it was in a hardcover book. Which was very cool. I'm also kind of surprised that this has never gotten just a standalone album release. Being as cool as that is, you can stream that, Cars Unlocked by chance, if you want. And so far, I've not seen a streaming version of this box set, hoping that it eventually makes its way up to streaming services. But right now, the only way to get it is in this physical edition. And the LP that you just saw sliding out right there is also the remastered 10-track album, same as the CD, so nothing difference there. And again, just something that I'm a little bit tired of, the duplication of LP and CD in box sets. As a CD fan, I just want the CDs. I don't want the LP. Let there be an LP edition, because I'm sure the LP fanatics want all of this bonus content on LP the same way that us CD fans only want the content on CD. So let that be known, record labels out there. Before we go any further, though, I do want to show you what was on the back side of this. So you do get the contents of this, because the back side of this, which does replicate the original gatefold style LP, which opens up like this, but I did always think that it was a bit strange that we didn't get the Cars name or anything across the front, and it was on the back side of this. And in fact, that was not considered the front, but this has long since been considered the front of the album. Though on the back side, since there is no track listing, you do get this paper which goes through and describes everything on the back side, kind of like a reverse hype sticker. On the front of it, you do get the hype sticker on it, which I always enjoy. I cut out and like to keep those. And then you get a 16-page book, which is basically just like the LP, but it's a softback book. It's kind of very flimsy. It's actually only 16 pages total, and that's counting the front and back sides of this. In fact, let's go ahead and open it up just to show you what the sort of full gatefold version of this is. But we get commentary from 2 surviving members of the band. Greg Hawkes on keyboards does a track-by-track annotation in here. In fact, let's flip to that part. It's the opening part of this right there. And then David Robinson, the drummer, I'm going to flip to that part and I'll come back to another part of this, does a commentary on the story of the album cover, because he was the one who came up with all of the band's album covers. Even though others would produce his ideas, he was sort of like the art director when all of that came to be. So that's in here. And then, as you can see, the largest portion of commentary actually is from Rick Ocasek. And even though he died in 2019, they found a way to pull something from interviews or whatever, and they got it in there. What's kind of a shame, though, is they don't actually incorporate anything from the other two members, Benjamin Orr, who passed away in 2000. I'm sure they could have dug something up the same way they did for Rick Ocasek, or Elliot Easton, the guitarist, who is still alive and could have easily provided something the way that David Robinson and Greg Hawkes had. But the whole thing very, very short in here. So as you saw, you get commentary just on that one page, the track by track portion. Then we get lyrics, and we get some blow ups of lyrics there. We get photos of the group. We then get that little additional portion of commentary from David Robinson and Rick Ocasek. Some more pictures there. And then we get the contents of what's included and a little bit more stuff like that. And that's it. That's all that is in that. So kind of very shocking, because in my opinion, there's more information on Wikipedia than what I just got right there. So bottom line on this whole thing, it's a very interesting compilation of material, but that's kind of really what it is, because it brings together a number of previously released things, and it adds in a little bit of extra stuff that we haven't gotten before. But you know, it adds up the deluxe editions that have been available in the various bonus tracks from past releases, that VHS live release that came out at the time. You know, but it's nice to have it all in one place as sort of a definitive deluxe edition. I think that's what this is trying to be. So I do think that it's very worthwhile if you don't already have it. So I myself don't have the 2018 expanded reissue of Heartbeat City. And of course, I don't have that VHS tape of the live concert, making all of this very worthwhile for me. Though I think that it, you know, would have been a lot better if they had really thought about the sequencing of the bonus tracks on here, not putting so much duplicate material. I think if they had had a better booklet that was much more in depth and developed, really telling the story, covering something from all the different members, and a better, more easier to use packaging overall, where everything slides out much easier and I can access stuff a lot easier. So in the end of the day, though, really, isn't it all about the contents, the music? And of course it is, and that at least is why this works for me in the end of the day. And I hope for you at least it works the same way and you find it to be a worthwhile release for your catalog, as I am for mine. There you go. That is my review for the Cars Heartbeat City Deluxe Edition box set review for this particular album. If you chose to pick this up, weigh in. Let me know your thoughts on it, the content included, how functional everything is, and of course, the repeat of stuff that's included in here. I'd be curious to get your take on that as well. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.